Just for the record, this mic does not project at all. It's just for the recording for cats, so that if other people would like to watch this presentation in the future, they can hear what I'm saying. And if you can't hear me, just let me know. Okay, so we are here to talk about residential stormwater grants for 2024. We've got a pretty brief presentation. I'll talk about the grants. Christy will talk about stormwater more generally, and then we'll have time for any questions you may have. And you have all the time in the world to ask questions. Okay. So I am Liz Carter. I am the MS4 program coordinator for the city of Bloomington. I'll describe what that means in one moment. And Christy is the stormwater education specialist. The MS4 team is a total of 5 people, and our job is to protect the stormwater in Bloomington. So keep your creeks clean and try our best to keep properties and roads and any other structure from flooding. So that's what we're charged with. We spend a lot of time on construction sites. We spend a lot of time inspecting ponds that have already been built. And we also spend time answering questions from homeowners and looking for solutions to their stormwater problems. One of those things is this grant program. So important deadline, kind of, our applications are due September 1st every year now. Falls on a Sunday this year. Our due date is a rolling due date, essentially. So if it comes in after September, it just won't be considered this year. It would fall into next year's bracket. So if for some reason you're just not ready to submit this stuff by September 1st, if it comes in after, we'd consider it the following year. So that's kind of just like a cutoff. Applications go to, and I think it's on the materials that Christy gave you as well. This is the website with all the information on our grants, and this is where you apply. Okay, so stormwater, residential stormwater grants were created originally and still serve the purpose of addressing neighborhood drainage and erosion control issues on a small scale. So private property owners submit projects to us, and we fund them to solve the stormwater problems that they have. Sometimes it is as simple as a backyard that holds water after it rains and is like a mosquito breeding ground. And then sometimes it's a whole neighborhood that has, a swale running through it that isn't operating properly and needs to be rebuilt. So sometimes they're really small, sometimes they're a little bit larger. In 2023, we funded 6 projects. I think we had a total of like 12 applications, and after the ones that were not within city limits, I think we had like 7 or 8. I will say that our number of applications has been kind of trending downward recently. I think a lot of folks that would benefit from this have applied because this program has been going on for 6 years. So a lot of folks that are really engaged with their government and have been calling us and saying, I have this issue in my backyard and I've had it forever. They tended to contact us early, and we've already funded their projects. So we are seeing kind of a downward trend. On average, projects cost about $6,000 this past year. But we had the smallest one was maybe $2,000, and the biggest one was like $15,000. So they really vary, and it depends if we're helping out just one property, or I think the biggest one spanned over 6 or 7. So it just depends on scale. So to be eligible for this program, you have to be a single-family residential property. We do consider duplexes or triplexes to count as long as the property, like the plex, is owner-occupied, so it can't be a rental. You must pay the city of Bloomington stormwater fee. There are a few folks that don't, even though they're within city limits. Very rare. If you're within city limits, you get a utility bill from us, you likely pay the fee. So you must own the property and live on the property. And when we have multiple properties together, they have to be contiguous because we can't build a swale and then leave a property out and then keep building a swale. It doesn't make sense. So for the application, first step is to contact us if you need any more information. Coming to this meeting is kind of doing that, but you're always welcome to give us a call or shoot us an email. There's guidelines on the website. The next thing you would do is pick a contractor. We'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. And then you fill out the application, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So for contractors, Because we are city employees, we cannot recommend a contractor. We cannot give you a list of names. We can't like nod or shake our head if you like float some people, but some tips for picking them would be to look for someone who's licensed and insured and bonded. Ask them about having drainage experience. And if they do have that, asking for examples or references. I will tell you, some folks, a lot of folks that do these projects are landscapers. Landscaper means lots of things. Some guys just own a couple of tractors and they mow grass, right? That's maybe not who you want to do your stormwater stuff, but it's up to you. When you submit the application, we do ask for a location map. That can truly just be from Google Maps with a little box drawn around where you're planning to do this. A couple of photographs of the issues. So typically if you can get a photograph after it's rained to show us kind of, this section of the yard is washing out or the water's rising up to my deck or something like that, that can be really helpful so we can understand scope. We ask for a plan view sketch. This is a very good one, okay? So we're not looking for like professional engineer drew the plans. We just want an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. Graph paper is that's top tier. And then a cost estimate, broken down somewhat. When we get cost estimates from contractors that's like, we're gonna fix this person's yard and it's gonna cost $10,000, that's kind of not enough. We need a little bit of a breakdown so we can understand that a cost estimate is reasonable. Also, sometimes we get estimates that include some items that are not really stormwater focused. We had someone last year, their project was a great project. They were redoing a swale, but they also just wanted to fix their retaining wall. And we said, we're happy to pay for the swale. That is stormwater. But rebuilding your cinder block wall just really isn't. It's that you built that so people wouldn't walk through your yards, and that's great, but that's not really what this is for. So sometimes projects have a portion that we're funding and then a portion that we're like, that's kind of outside of our scope. So we have staff review the applications that come in first, and we're just looking at, were the materials that we have asked for submitted appropriately. We'll consider things like the potential that the proposed project has to reduce flooding. Would it improve water quality? And kind of just what's the overall drainage area. We then have a committee that meets. I'm on that committee. We have an engineer who's on that committee, and we have one of our board members. They oversee all expenditures that CBU does, that City of Bloomington Utilities does. So one of them volunteers, and they spend the afternoon with us, and we go through all of the applications together, and we rank them. So first item was everything submitted? So we can tell what the project is. And that's kind of in parentheses, is the property within the City of Bloomington? We get some people that submit applications from Ellettsville, and unfortunately we cannot fund that. The first thing that we consider is equity. So that could mean, is it a lower income area, or is it a really high income area? But it can also mean what kind of advocacy does someone have? So neighborhoods that have a neighborhood association, a lot of times, an HOA. A lot of times that HOA is responsible for things like drainage. So if someone else is already responsible for fixing the drainage in 4 people's backyards, that might rank a little lower on equity. But if you have someone that they don't have an HOA, they're just kind of on their own to address these problems, that's considered a little bit higher. We also give preference to projects that serve multiple households or multiple people. So sometimes it doesn't mean that it spans multiple properties. We had one last year that all the water from 2 city blocks drained to this one person's backyard, and they called it Mosquito Lake. And while we really were only doing work on their property and a little bit on the neighbor, just because they had, a little bit that crossed the property line, that was still serving many households because the mosquitoes were a nuisance to everyone, not just the people whose backyard they were living in. So it's not always necessarily that you can get every one of your neighbors to sign up for this with you. It's just, is it going to make an impact for more than just one person? And because it doesn't mean it's a no. We've definitely funded projects that it's my basement floods, this would help. And we're like, okay, well, we have the money, we will give you some help. So the next thing is project feasibility. And that's we don't sit on that one too hard because usually these projects are very feasible. It's not like people are coming to us with some, crazy robotic solution to their problems. They tend to be very plant focus, landscape focus. We're going to build a berm here, create a ditch here, and it'll send the water away from the house. So they're usually pretty feasible. But if we got one that we're like, ooh, that's a little outside the scope of, what we think is able to be accomplished here, that could come into consideration. And then we also consider potential benefits to the system as a whole, because we're thinking about if you can slow some water down at your property, that helps everybody downstream of you too. So when there's the ability to benefit those upstream or downstream, that comes into play as well. So once we award projects, the process after that, we draft a grant agreement, a document that's about 3 pages long, that the applicant signs, the grantee at this point, and our board signs. And we do 2 visits. We come and visit the property before the project starts so that we can get kind of a before. And then we come and inspect after it's done. If it's a larger project and if someone requests our presence midway through, we are happy to come, but we typically just do before and after. Once we have inspected the project and decided it is definitely complete, we're happy with everything, any earth that was disturbed has vegetation growing, that kind of stuff, then the contractor submits their invoice to us and we pay them directly. One question we get sometimes is a lot of contractors would prefer that you put down a deposit with them. We don't reimburse that, but we would reimburse it at the end. So typically when we pay contractors, we pay them once. So if they want to work out some kind of schedule, we pay them at the end when it's done. So we have had that a couple times, and I think the homeowner had to put down the deposit, but then they got it back, and the contractor billed us for all of it. And if you have any more specific questions about that, I will do my best to answer them, because every year we get some new billing situation we've never seen before. So when the contractor is done, they sign a 5-year maintenance agreement with us, which means they have to maintain anything that happens. If the structure fails over 5 years, they have to fix it. Okay, Christy, you're up. This is where we break from grant stuff to general stormwater stuff. Do you want to look at the laptop, or do you want to just...
Well, if you want to just go ahead and advance them for me, since you know your laptop, that'd work.
I will press the space bar.
Hello, welcome. What is stormwater, you may be wondering. And I apologize for my voice this evening. Allergies are getting to me a little bit. But it's basically water that flows over land from rainfall or snowmelt before it enters into natural waterways. And there was a nice picture there. And it can include water quality as well as quantity. In other words, flooding, and go ahead. More frequent and intense rain events are happening thanks to our changing climate. You may have noticed that. It started, I'd say, about 6-7 years ago. People really started noticing a change in their yards. Basically, what it's doing is coming down harder and faster instead of over a prolonged period of time, and that causes more storm water. It doesn't sink in, literally. It just kind of runs off and creates more erosion. So that's what we're trying to affect with this program. Some of you may remember July of 2021, June and July, actually, that time period. That photo was taken then. Go ahead. And we do have that opportunity to make a difference. We do, not only with the Stormwater Grant Program, but other programs that we have, including storm drain marking. Yes, we put the little discs on the storm drains. You may have seen those that say no dumping drains to stream. That's just to remind people that these systems are not filtered. They go directly into our natural waterways. And we do have an adopt a drain program too, so that people can go ahead and officially adopt their drains and take care of them. All that we ask is that people do that every time it rains really hard, right before and right after, and they fill out monthly report, and we also send out monthly newsletters with little tips and so on. It's really pretty cool. And of course, this one, and then we're also developing a stormwater education series. Next.
Which has a bunch of cool videos.
Oh, yeah, there are a number of very good videos, and you'll see this later, but we do ask people to go to the website to see those. We have a YouTube channel and everything. I know, we're pretty
Not a
cool.
TikTok yet, though.
But we do have a Facebook page, too. Residential stormwater practices, they include rain gardens, bioswales, dry creek beds, detention or retention ponds, ditch stabilization, driveway culverts. These are some of the more common ones. And, oh no, that's fine. How does a rain garden work? Basically, your downspout drains to a lower area and a depression in the ground that is filled with native plants. Native plants have deeper roots to hold in the soil, and they're also conditioned to our climate and so on and so forth. They know what to do. If they've been here for a long time, they get it. So we encourage them. Go ahead. Bioswale is basically kind of like a linear rain garden in a way. It's just, instead of a round depression that is just right there and then, it can stretch on for 1 property, 2 property, 3 property, and so on and so forth. You may have seen some of these around town. Dry creek bed, basically like you see in that picture there. It can include riprap down at the bottom instead of plants, but plants are normally planted along the side there, so, such as in this choir log. There are seeds in that, and they came up later. It's really a nice structure. Bioretention ponds, again, they're kind of similar to both bioswales, but they're more of on a smaller scale than, say, an actual retention or detention pond. Speaking of which, retention and detention ponds are bigger. Retention holds rain water for a much longer period of time, sometimes year-round, whereas detention just holds it for a little while. Driveway culverts, kind of self-explanatory there, but a culvert that goes underneath your driveway, surprise, surprise. And we do pay for the culverts, but not for the driveway. But it's a start. That's the expensive part. Submittals, yes, and as we were saying, this is, excuse me, the website that we ask you to go to. That's where we have all sorts of information and resources, and I would encourage you to read through those. And also that is where you can submit your grants. There is a link there. And yes, okay, is that it? My goodness, that was fast.
This is Christy's contact information in case you would like to reach out to her. Since she is our education specialist, she's always here to answer questions. If you just have a question about what kind of native plants you might want to plant in your garden, Christy would love to talk to you about that. I would too, but Christy gets to do it for her job. So if you guys have any questions for us, I mean, don't rush to form a line, but we would be happy to answer them. If you kind of want to float, like, if you had a project in mind that you were thinking of, normally we wouldn't do that, but since there's 2 of you, we can be your sounding board for ideas should you want to ask us anything.
Our property is on the corner of Sayre Road and Clayridge Drive, and all of our neighborhood drains down through our property. And then there's a big culvert that goes across underneath that road to Jackson Creek.
I'm gonna pull up a map so we can look at it. Is that
You're
okay?
welcome.
Okay, I don't know if you're like,
Kind
please
of
don't put my
that
stuff
whole
on.
side of our yard is a drainage easement. But the swale has gone from like fairly shallow about 6 years ago, and now it's like 5 foot deep. Like there's so much erosion that's happened.
And we're trying to get rid of all the honeysuckle too. That's our personal.
Good for you.
Fighting it. And so,
Yep, that big corner right there.
Here, I can
We're
turn
the
on
house
here.
on the corner on the used to be a road before the neighborhood was created, and then everybody's got water that comes down through those backyards.
Oh, yeah, I see it. That's,
So
yeah, it's
that's-
like a giant swale.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it kind of,
It has like
Has-
a snake.
that's what I was wondering, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of, it's just, it's a mess. So we're trying, it hasn't been touched in like 25 years, and I decided we should do it. So then we found the website. This seems right on par. So we were worried about not having multiple neighbors in on it, but I do think it would affect a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, and I think that you do look at property lines, which I think are right here. Yep. It is even possible that aside from the side yard, when Christy was talking about kind of bioswales, if you had a couple folks here who are amenable doing kind of a bioswale to help absorb some of the water on its way to your house so that you don't just become the ponding area. So a lot of time folks think a rain garden or a pond or something should go at the bottom of the drainage way, but if it goes in the middle, that helps alleviate folks that are further downstream. So yeah, it would be interesting if your neighbors were interested in doing kind of a bioswale. Based on the contours and the property lines, I almost feel like it'd have to be people on both sides the whole way down, though. But it could be interesting.
Water all the time though. It's dry in the majority of the time.
Okay, up in here.
Up in there.
It's because it's being conveyed so effectively to you.
I call it a pit. So someone said mosquito pond. I was like, our pit, the water just sits there and we have really bad ticks.
I'm not surprised.
So
Yeah, the elevation changed from like the area where your house is down here. It looks like it's like 14 feet. That's a lot of drop.
That was actually one of our questions was we were wondering if that would be considered part of, we were trying to think of ways to stop the erosion. Would be maybe building that up a little bit on the sides it's just something I was curious about.
Like a would it qualify kind of a thing.
Is it berm, I think?
Yeah,
Like
a
that
berm.
type of-
Yeah. I think that is,
Yeah, there's potential for that. Yeah. Yes.
Be asking about to replace all that.
We appreciate your efforts to battle the honeysuckle.
We really do.
Okay.
Yeah, so you said getting, I think I read 3 or more estimates. Kind of
It's not a bad idea, and because too, if you don't have anything very much in mind, you're kind of like, I just want this problem to be fixed.
Based on kind of the very interesting topography that you have at your property, I'm going to say interesting. I might ask a couple folks and see what their solution is because you might get very different answers.
So I was curious. I know you can't give any suggestions on who to talk to. It seems like the more minds might have different ideas. So.
Yeah. So yeah, always getting a couple
Ideas, it never hurts. And yeah, some folks are going to approach solving these problems as more of like, as Christy was kind of alluding to, is more of a gray infrastructure item. Like, oh, well, we can just build this up, build a berm, put rocks here, that'll help. And then our preferred method, if this helps you, make a decision, is to be as green as possible. So as much as we can use native plants and vegetation to help handle stormwater, that's always going to be the preference. Other questions?
I just have an alley that turns into a river.
Okay.
It flows downhill beside my house. And it likes to round the corner of my driveway, dump a bunch of water in my, there's a drain there. It's probably been there since 1940, And,
Do you want us to look at it, or would you prefer we not?
You can.
Okay.
It's 609 West Graham Drive. And my basement flooding was the impetus for
Sure.
coming here, but I can't imagine that other people aren't affected by the water, the water running down the alley into their yards. And
So it's this alley here, right? Here, I'm gonna pull the okay. So it's sort of an improved alley. It's not super improved, but it's not just grass. Okay, so it rolls this way and then cuts over into your yard.
now that comes around the back, and there's a drain right.
Oh, I see.
There's a storm drain there, and
It's the layer's on. We don't know about this storm drain. That's
well,
interesting.
I don't know if it was put in by previous owners.
I think it probably was because I'm gonna be honest with you, we don't have a system here.
Okay.
Because the closest system we have is this little purple line right here. This is a piece of pipe. And it's connecting, I don't know what these even are, maybe a couple of inlets. So over here, there we go. Yeah. Over in here, we definitely don't have infrastructure. So I'm not sure where that drain goes, but it's likely not connected to anything. Too much? I mean, it's always possible if you can find where there's an outlet somewhere. Like, it's possible someone before you managed to run a piece of pipe that took on the stormwater and then like put it out at the street or even on their neighbor's property. We see that sometimes, but it's not going into the system. It's probably just conveying it somewhere else, hopefully.
The drain functions still. The problem is that it runs down the alley, and whatever's in the alley gets carried by the water and clogs my drain. And if we happen to be gone, it'll stop it up.
Yep.
It'll stop up the grate and then floods the basement.
So you can't leave town. You have to babysit your storm drain. That's great. But yeah, I would imagine that you do have some neighbors with some stormwater challenges here because there's no stormwater system. So there's no inlet in the street that's taking that water and taking it somewhere else. So if you're one of those folks that unluckily, because of topography, is just like collecting stormwater, there's nowhere for it to go. So I would bet you have some neighbors that might be willing to partner with you.
Mosquitoes are pretty terrible in that area too. You can't, at any time of day, you can't go outside.
Also excellent for stormwater grants, not for people. Okay. Any other questions or just like passing thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah. My wife and I just bought a lot on Linear West 73. It's an empty lot, so we plan on building a house there.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's kind of if you look at it, it's a giant hole. So the address is 1017 West 9th Street. The most recent storm that we had last week, it likes to pool a bunch of water on the southeast corner of the lot, which
Oh, wow.
so the two neighbors in 804 or whatever that was. So I have two neighbors in the back of me
Okay.
that already experienced a lot of. They're on the very low end of because the lot kind of just kind of merges downwards.
Yeah.
So they have already flooding issues. So technically, the lot that we are at, I share an alley, a city alley that has not been cared for by the city. So, which should connect West 9th Street to West 8th Street, but because
Is
of
it this guy right here?
yes.
Okay, yeah. It's,
So
yeah.
I guess I came here because I didn't know if somebody had mentioned to me about the storm drain, but there's no drain there,
Nope.
just on West 9th Street and West 8th Street. But there is a lot of pooling in that southeast corner of my lot. So we haven't built anything yet. We've got a topographic survey done, and some civil engineers to kind of look at it. But at the same time, I don't want to just kind of. I'm sure they're gonna, do their job to kind of push water away. But I'm also thinking about my neighbors who are in a position where they have a lot of water that comes. So I didn't know if there was anything around that or.
Yeah, so that's kind of a novel situation since you have an empty lot that you're building something. I don't think we were saying before that it's like every year we get something we've never seen before, and I think that is it. But so yes, I think that if you and your neighbors got together to form some kind of solution, that is something we would look at. Like we wouldn't say, oh, because you're building, you know, we won't consider you. Because really, you could probably get an engineer to solve the problem on your lot, but that's going to be by pushing the water to somebody else, which is perfectly legal, by the way, but it's not very nice. Right.
Because she's a landscaper, and so you would think she has all her stuff together, but then at the end of the day, I don't want to do my house.
Yes.
So she just kind of throws this like bunch of stuff there, and there's literally a dam that has built behind her northwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
Just to prevent the water going into her crawl space. But I certainly don't want to put more water
Sure.
in her lot. So,
Sure.
So this could be a possible conversation with you guys?
Oh yeah, I think so. And I think we also do see some of the more interesting and innovative projects we've seen are in the really old parts of Bloomington because I mean, first of all, you're already doing better than Mr. Graham because that's the street you live on. I'm not gonna announce your name. Because you have a storm system like on either street on 9th and on 8th, but those storm systems, just looking at the pipe sizes, they weren't built to accommodate all the development that ended up going upstream of you. So yeah, you have these like smaller parcels and trying to find solutions for this stuff can be really challenging. So you might have to be creative, but I think that's something we would certainly entertain.
I would reach out to my neighbors and have that conversation and then have them reach out to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, so that brings us to like a great question about how do you apply for this when there's multiple people? Yeah, so because if it's you and your neighbors, and I mean, your property could be part of it too. It might need to be part of it depending on what the solution is. So when it's you and multiple people, you just need to pick someone to put their name at the top as the applicant, but then everybody else just kind of like it's just please list these folks and yeah.
How does that work? Because the alley is not our lot.
Sure.
So then it's like who kind of pays for that? And it's like who.
So right. So the who can work in the right of way, which is what an alley is, a street, a sidewalk, anything is right of way. The answer to who can work there is the city. So since it's an unimproved alley, I would like, if you had a plan that included the alley, I would consider that. So typically we don't do work in rights of way because we're on the hook for that normally, right? If we want to build a rain garden in the right of way, we fund it, we design it, we build it. We don't typically have private folks wanting to do that. But because you're in a situation where, I mean, the only property you could possibly partner with if we said the alley was a hard line is the property to the west. I think we could, is this guy you right here? Yeah, so this is the only property that you like share a property line with. Everything else is divided by alleys. But if we were to find something that like we thought, for example, you could build a bioswale or a rain garden that touches like all 4 of these properties, but is also in the alley, it would be possible. This guy? Going to here?
In that corner.
Yeah. So if it was like,
So yeah, right where you pointed is where all the water pools, and then it seeps into those 2 lots on the.
down in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And it looks like, hopefully these building outlines are correct. Yeah, it looks like their properties are really close to the street, so they might have a little bit of space to do something back in there. Mm-hmm.
Has already built like a little channel to kind of move the water from that. But even then, it's not enough. So she just has just a lot of flooding. But unfortunately, it's just where they built out the houses. It's the lowest part of that, between those 2 streets. So they just get so much water.
Yeah.
Good. we have a storm trooper or whatever, some guy that cleans the drains.
Oh, you have an adopted drain person?
Yeah, I'll just call him.
Just like a regular
Yeah, some
citizen?
guy with
A stormtrooper,
That'd be
Christy, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
No,
He comes-
like the president.
I know,
we can
you
change
should
that.
name
He's
your
so
adopted
dedicated,
drain
you know. But when those things get clogged, especially on John Street, which is between West 8th and West 9th Street.
Is it this one here to
Yeah.
the east? Okay.
It's so bad because it just floods in that little cove. And I think the city's been doing a great job getting people to clean up the curbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even then, I just don't know where everything comes from. It's all going down into that one area. So.
Yeah, and it's something too that even if your neighbors aren't necessarily interested in doing this, the parts of this that where water's flowing through rights of way, our engineers could always take a look at that too and see if there's something they could do to get it to flow not into someone's backyard. Because, you know, we're always welcome to operate within rights of way to try to fix drainage. So, and because you have all these alleys crisscrossing, if our engineers thought they could do something to convey water, they certainly could do it here. Yeah.
Taking it over just because it's not being used. So.
Yeah, that's
But
what
I'm
they
sure they
do.
would be on board, especially Sheridan, my neighbor to the south.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, the official term for those are unimproved alleys,
okay.
which is to say abandoned.
Yeah. Okay, so then just have a conversation with my neighbors and then maybe reach out to the city.
Yep.
So have a conversation with your neighbors, kind of get a feel for, will it just be you and the lady to the south? Because I think you guys still could accomplish something between the two of you. Or would it be the two of you plus these other two folks down here? Because that would probably change your scope. And if you start getting kind of an idea for what you might want to do, I could talk with our folks in City Hall about using the right of way here for something other than. I do want to see what other utilities are in the right of way before I get too excited about using it. Sorry, just want to see.
Oh, I guess while I'm here, I did call 811 for the lot that I bought.
Yeah.
There's a mysterious pipe on that alley that no one has figured out.
Hopefully it's not our pipe. It shows all of our stuff in the streets.
I would think it's water maybe. It was a very old, it's demolished now the house, and they've cleared out the lot to expose it. But there's this mysterious pipe that no one seems to figure out what it is. It's a black pipe. And I thought maybe it's just water from the old house that was there previously. But even then I can't confirm that. But it's in the unimproved, or whatever, unabandoned.
Yeah, the unimproved alley.
Yeah. And then,
That's what I was saying, they don't maintain it.
so should I just go ahead and just start this conversation now, or just, so our thought is to build in like maybe 3 years?
Okay.
So, but maybe just do this now so that way.
Yeah, I mean, if especially if your neighbors are currently having issues.
Yeah.
We would certainly want them to kind of lead it. If you're not living there or planning to live there pretty soon, you probably don't want to be the lead on that. But if we needed to use like a portion of your property to solve the problems of your neighbors, I think that could be okay. Totally okay. Yeah, we have no record of the mysterious black pipe, so I have no idea what that is.
Can I apply for this then? Because I'm nowhere near a storm drain. Or is this kind of just a general?
Oh, so the grant is just
Since you missed the very beginning part, so people bring projects to us to solve stormwater problems. We gather them all. They're due September 1st. If you miss September 1st or you're not ready and you apply after, then you would just go into consideration for 2025. So like, it's not like if you miss the deadline, you're just done. You just go to next year. All the applications we receive by September 1st, we get them together. We have a review committee. We go through them all. We rank them on various criteria, like impact to how many people, how many folks that it can impact, the location in the watershed, considerations of equity, stuff like that. So we rank them. We choose the grantees, and then we contact them, get their grant agreement together. They build it. Their contractor sends us an invoice. We pay the invoice. That's really it. See, my presentation didn't need to be that long, did it?
Alley that'd be a little bit different from.
Yeah, it probably would be. But really the big difference would just be the city saying it's okay to build something there and the potential for right-of-way permitting to do work in an alley. But that would really be a responsibility of the contractor to get all that, like the permitting from our friends in engineering down in City Hall. So that's really what the big difference would be, just getting a couple extra permissions for the alley. There's hope. It's not hopeless. But like I said, in the meantime, though, I kind of wonder if our engineers think they could put an inlet here or something.
Corner just to see if there was some old, because that neighborhood is just so old. You'll just find injured from the 1950s, and we're like, oh, someone's porta potty. People used to bury trash in there.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, there's nothing there. They just pools. My kids love it because they're like, oh, it's a big old puddle. Let's go jump in it.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Yeah, I do want. I might bring this up. So if you want to reach out to us with like we'll have your contact information from that. We have a bi-weekly meeting that we just talk about stormwater issues that have like come to us from the public. I might ask our engineers if they think there's anything they could do like to convey water out of there, because you have infrastructure nearby. The issue is that the water's taking a path of destruction on its way to our infrastructure. So I kind of wonder if they could come up with something.
it's always been like, it's a huge one.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have that meeting a week from tomorrow, and then I might reach out to you with what they say if they have any thoughts. Okay. Oh no, so we meet like just internally. Yeah. Just our staff get together and chat about stormwater stuff. Yeah. You don't have to be there. No. But I'll bring this up to them and ask if they have any ideas, and then I've got your email on there hopefully, and I can shoot you an email with what they say. And it might be there's nothing we can do, but I'll let you know. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts?
That if the solution is determined to be divert the water before it enters the alley, that wouldn't be outside of the scope of a grant. That would be a city thing at that point.
If it was divert the water like in the road before it gets to the alley, yes, that would be our engineers would need to figure out how to do that. Okay. I can add you to the meeting too.
Oh.
If when we chat about our various stormwater issues next Friday, I can ask them if they have any ideas. That is so weird. Of course. And I think our contact information is on the handouts. If it's not, stormwater@bloomington.in.gov goes to both of us. If you have any follow-up questions, you realize you forgot something, you just wanted to tell us you found out what your mystery drain is, any of the above, feel free to reach out. Of course.